And welcome back. We are getting ready for our next game right away here. I am once again Tension, joined by Ryan Central. We have been dragged kicking and screaming away from watching the NV and Chopperback match because we have some incredible matches coming up for you. We have exited the qualification zone and we are entering into the zone of seeding.
Now, yeah, it's pretty much a case for some of these teams that we're going to be watching that there's zero chance for Crazy Raccoon or OUG to be able to qualify for playoffs starting at DreamHack Atlanta. In fact, having a look at the standings, we can sort of see that our top 4 teams coming out of Group B are set in stone. Now it becomes a case of who is going where when it comes to seeding, how they're going to play in that first sort of wave of playoff games, whether it's the 4th seed going up against the 1st of Group A, etc. It's a little bit of bragging rights, but also making sure that you give yourself the easiest path to the Grand Finals of the Grand Finals here at Marvel Rivals Ignite.
And you mentioned that Group A. Right now, as everything stands, it's kind of looking like Virtus Pro may be coming out ahead. And I know for Citadel Gaming in particular, that is a team they're going to want to avoid. While they have a lot of experience playing against them, they're still going to want to try and avoid a team that's been playing exceptionally well at this tournament and a team that has given them a lot of trouble in the past.
Yeah, I mean, this game, we were sort of expecting it could be a whimsical one. If OUG managed to get the win over Crazy Raccoon a little bit earlier on, it would have meant that this game was quite literally a qualifying elimination game.
Yeah, it could
but
have
alas,
come down to that.
yeah, alas, it wasn't to be the case because Crazy Raccoon made sure that Citadel Gaming had their proven ticket in for playoffs. And it's been a story of 2 very different days for Citadel Gaming. Starting off on day 1, 2-0 up with a nice win over 100 Thieves to really cement their position. But yesterday, going down against Na'Vi and also FlyQuest on some of their most impactful, strongest maps, it was a disaster, really.
But what's important to bring up here is that Citadel, while they struggled on their second day, even that first day is mired in a little bit of struggle, as they so far have not been able to take a series in a 2-0. Every series they have won, they have dropped at least one map, and that is why they find themselves so low in the table right now. We've been seeing them get stronger, but it still seems there looks like there's some feeling out issues with this current meta.
Yeah, it seems that like Citadel Gaming, they want to try and make triple strategies work, and what we've seen, you know, FlyQuest, for example, sort of taking apart Na'Vi. Na'Vi were very dedicated to this kind of like standard comp of 2-2-2. FlyQuest still want to run that triple strategist and showed that it can actually be the better approach to go in with so many other teams moving away from it. Citadel Gaming have been following almost like the same formula to what FlyQuest have in a different region, both sort of agreeing that this is the approach to go for. However, for Citadel, it feels that it's just a feeling out situation, seeing how they can play up against some of these other types of composition.
They really seem to be, like you say, struggling against certain types of composition. They're still feeling it out for themselves as well. But we are seeing moments of brilliance. Like we said, they are still putting up fights in every single one of their games, and it has allowed them to 100% qualify for that playoff stage. Now it's just about avoiding those high-seeded teams from the other group.
There's a lot of focus on Tanuki, I think, also, with just how much Jeff they've been playing too. It seems that looking back at what we've seen from Stage 2, for example, Mantis was being like the top pick, top band. Then it would be like Jeff, Ultron, which is just non-existent this patch, really. We've really not seen any teams pick it, never mind actually take it out in a ban or protect draft. Now it seems that there's a lot of teams moving away from the Jeff, but it's something that Tanuki and the rest of Citadel Gaming want to work with. For OUG, I think when it comes to the sort of meta, the ideas, the philosophy, their approach is more of a screw it we ball attitude, because whilst this is the top seed coming in from China, unfortunately you have 3 substitute players coming in to try and represent them. And whilst we've seen the likes of DRP and MASH playing in EMEA for Chopped, it's nice to see them here to sort of fill in some of those slots. They have been an inch away from playoff qualification for quite some time and just missing out.
A shout out to our colleagues over in China as well, the Chinese commentators for Ignite. That we had a little group chat for mid-season and it was just flooded with sad cat gifs on the last round for OUG. As once again, like you said, they're missing a couple players. They haven't been able to, they've put everyone on the line. They've come so close to winning every single time. And not only do they come so close to beating teams, they come so close to qualify, because any one of those could have been an extra point that could have put them in this situation against Citadel. But it's alas what could have been. Right now though, the important part is, can OUG continue to show and keep that pride going for China after such an incredible LAN performance, and potentially play spoiler to Citadel, or can Citadel get that extra point and try and avoid Virtus Pro?
Yeah, I think there's a lot still for stock, I suppose, for Citadel with this series. You're going up against a team that wants to try and play 2-2-2, and if Citadel want to keep committing to triple strategist as a philosophy, as an idea, it's a good team to try and play it up against to see exactly what they're going to do. So when it comes to the draft, yeah, most teams are going to try and take out the Mantis first, maybe even try to go for a one-sided Mantis. But because we are seeing OUG sort of play more of a 2-2-2 setup, having that character in for DRP, or both Dewey can also play that character, means that they're going to try and go for that first. Meanwhile, Citadel Gaming, they want to give Tanuki to Jeff.
Jeff's on the board. That could also be a Ken Jeff as well. They've got the flexibility on this
True.
roster. They can really mix it up when needed. But we will see the Adam Warlock taken away from OUG, where they started to creep it in themselves. Venom removed, though. You don't want to give either Enzo or Polly that Venom, as that backline dive can be extremely difficult to deal with, especially with the anti-heal. Molan currently hovering a little bit of a Psylocke of their own, so perhaps we'll see that kind of dive out of OUG. As Citadel, they're going to take away the massive rising star character of this LAN, the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, just one of those characters when it comes to the duelist. Like, he suits a lot of different compositions now. It seems that Bucky is just the most well-rounded, most resolute, I think, for duelists. You know, Psylocke can sort of sit in those positions,
it's
as could
anti-dive,
Star-Lord.
it's protection, it's burst, it's everything.
It's always decent, but the Protect on the Ember Frost, because it wasn't actually banned out from OUG, means that it sort of balanced itself out. Both teams are want to trying to play it, and certainly when you got OUG actually banning out the Venom and the Cap, just making sure that you have some option there to work with is a solid one. And the Adam is going to be the final ban for OUG so far.
Counter Adams both taken out. Neither team going to be giving that up. Mantis slipping through the ban stage for CTG. OUG could try and protect it in this final spot if they wanted to go for that damage boost, and they do. Mantis all the way from start to finish. OUG picked that up, and now they can still run Psylocke. They can still run a little bit of extra burst damage if they want to. While they won't have that Winter Soldier, there are plenty more options in terms of that quick blow potential. And Citadel looks like we're going to be heading over to that Tidal Dirge team up. And the Maud being hovered along with the Hela, neither of which being taken away currently.
It would be for the first time. It feels again like we sort of were saying that Citadel, with so many teams moving away from triple strategists, that they were the ones, certainly from EMEA, that were still sticking to it, because Na'Vi went more for 2-2-2, Virtus Pro definitely preferred to sort of play that more as a standard setup, just because that's what their strongest composition has always been. So for Citadel Gaming, maybe using this chance, like whilst it is a group game, we're seeing in the round robin for Group B, there's not much stock added onto it other than seeding. Citadel using it as a chance to get familiar with some of the other compositions that we are starting to see here in Atlanta.
That Citadel point is still going to be important. Not only do you need to get used to those compositions, you also need to be prepared once again for that seeding. OUG currently hovering something a little bit more aggressive. We'll see if that makes it out the door with the Thor and the Wolverine. There we go, swapping off of that. But there is a chance that is just for the Penny Mine setup for that extra armor with the Rocket Network team up. Citadel, much more stable here. They've got great range here. While they don't have Invisible Woman for the protection for the Hela, they do have the Zootopia backline to give them both incredible healing output, plus a little bit of pre-armor in theory if they want to do it. And they have backline harassment from Polly, of course, but this time on the Angela instead of the Captain America to keep the pressure onto OUG as Molan tries to step out of spawn, gets burst, but is going to be able to tank on through thanks to that Iron Bulwark.
It's a bit of a switch around with how these teams idealistically have tried to approach them at Citadel Gaming, trying to go for, like you sort of mentioned, the Zootopia backline, but very much these hit scan characters trying to go in for these fights. The chaos is already happening, having got the other streams so far, but for OUG, able to get the first pick onto Enzo, but a be right back means that he's going to be back into this engagement, just on the edge of OUG, actually taking the objective. There's one player that's actually come through that's actually found his way to stall in for Citadel Gaming. For OUG, however, they're just on the precipice of taking this point for the first time.
Polly's able to tank on through. Quick update for the other stream. Chopper Bag just beat Envy in a 2-1, basically making it near impossible for Envy to qualify for the playoffs, and Chopper Bag basically secured. It comes down to those last few games, so make sure to check that out as well. But over here, Melio going to be picked off by Molan Rad on the flank of Small, going in with the Soul Rejuvenation, pushing on to the point to try and control this. OUG trying to get control, trying to show that they are still here to fight. If they can't qualify, they're taking you down with them. Alex falls, Ken falls, and they are trying to push back Citadel.
Looking for their first series win so far in their groups. OUG were looking to be the team that was going to take the point first if it wasn't for Citadel just having enough tenacity to be able to fight back. It's their common identity, I suppose, something that we see consistently from them in EMEA. But for Citadel Gaming, having enough characters, certainly that can fight from a distance, means that Melio and Tanuki both looking to find flanks and crossfires from each other, and maybe some space for that Horn of Proteus to come through, alongside a potential damage boost from Alex now, as that Yarn Amplifier is available and ready to use for Citadel Gaming as they're trying to take back this point.
The Cosmic Yarn Amplifier plus the Horde of Proteus is essentially a one-shot for anyone. Cosmic Yarn Amplifier going to be dropped a little bit early for the protection against Molan Brad with the Galactic Legends. Enough to burn on through with them being taken down, creating once more one of those swings. Mash with the fate of both worlds, buying at least a little bit of time for OUG so they can contest this. But here they come with the Heavens Descent, Horde of Proteus into Melio, sieging away with the Goddess of Death. And OUG are routed.
It's a nice combination. Polly's had a lot of his characters taken out of the pool from OUG, but the times that we have seen him play Angela have been perfectly fine, terrific even. For OUG, 52% on the board. Citadel looking to try and claw it back, and there is a Sonic Seduction available for Dewey, but not too much else. Quite a lot was used in that fight. And OUG, going the triple strategist, actually going for some Ultron play with Taro Cookie, with so many teams moving away from recently, not even nerfed, but like buffed in some areas, reverted changes for OUG's Ultron. The Rage of Ultron is going to be available for this next fight. It's just whether they can actually get a pick, as Citadel Gaming not afraid to go for this engagement. They're not sat back waiting. They're forward facing and holding with their own Psionic Seduction available for Enzo.
A little bit aggressive there from Tanuki, is going to get picked off. Melio goes down at the same time. Both getting caught out here. Tanuki will revive at the Battle Rebirth Beacon, means they can keep this pressure on as Polly is forced to back up. Able to find the pick with the Assassin. Down into the Icarus Axis and takes out Molan in the 1v1.
Side of Seduction is going to be used from Enzo. There's a Nits Jeff from Ken that's also trying to see if he can grab onto anything. Dewey's looking in for that fight. Speaking of which, Ken now just in the back line, trying to give some support and some cleave healing for all of the people that are now on the objective, as Tanuki has found himself too, alongside Melio. That's half of the roster down for OUG. Not able to get any progression onto the point. It's looking at Citadel Gaming. Might have to force out a portal play from OUG to actually touch. Yeah, Mullenran is going to switch over.
DRP utilizing the Emma team up there to just make sure they can avoid Melio shots and land the final hit. Portal is forced out from Molan Rad to give OUG one last chance on this defense in the first point as they're trying to zone away Citadel, but Tanuki and Ken are just hanging out up here with the double fish on the high ground to siege away. Push up from Molan to try and create some zoning potential. Enzo gets locked down, who's currently holding the point for that 99. Overtime beginning to take down Mash with the fate of both worlds. No defensive ultimates yet ready for Citadel Gaming, meaning that we will start to see OUG creep ahead in terms of the sustain, unless the burst comes out. Tanuki takes down Svolb.
So far, Citadel holding on nicely. OUG running out of options here. Zabira back has been used. Heaven's Descent has found Polly another pick in the end as Vald. Nowhere near having invisible boundary, but there's just less people on the board for OUG to keep that front line alive. Taro Cookie is very low on HP, and the Yarn Amplifier is going to allow a little bit more damage to be thrown out. Citadel Gaming not willing to give this up now. There's still a respite. OUG, even if they take the point, they still have 48 points of progression to get. But they have to jump off of the point for a second. The Citadel Gaming take first.
Citadel in control, able to push back OUG. OUG making them fight for it, but that high ground control seems to be really what's getting Citadel these points. And then when they choose to strike, Tanuki and Melio are always on the flank. They're honestly playing a bit like Polly today, where they're just wrapping around and popping out when you least expect them, getting huge burst damage and then retreating, not getting picked off that many times. Polly only going down once. Melio and Tanuki will go down the most in this game alongside Ken for the side of Citadel. So far, Svolb and Mash are suffering for that. We're talking about how they're flanking often, and of course the strategists are the ones who will get punished by that.
Not to mention that you have got the one-sided Mantis that wasn't in play at all from OUG in that last round.
That's
now
true.
They've decided to try and pick it up, and It makes sense, even if it wasn't really as like hard meta as it seems to be at the moment. This second point that we're seeing on Benim T'Challa is so good to have the name on the Hela because there's so many open sight lines, the crossfires, just the bunkering that can set you up once you take that point first. But OUG, they don't have any ultimates to work with. In fact, it's just Melio that has got that Goddess of Death handy, and Alex not too far away from having another Yam amplify themselves.
Which means they're going to have a huge amount of burst damage, and you look at what OUG have to deal with that. 60% on the Soul Rejuvenation from Svalb, Mash 20% towards a Fate of Both Worlds, meaning that they do not have any kind of defensive tools to deal with this, but they do have numbers advantage, as Polly is the first to fall. Melio's going to pull the trigger, not even needing a Cosmic Yard Amplifier here, so they're just going to go into that Goddess of Death. The Mind's Aegis will block it, Magnetic Curtain also blocking a little bit of the damage, and they are just not finding much here.
No, it seems that just losing Polly out in that fight just sort of took some of the wind out of the sails, and even Melio gets taken off from across the map. Bierback is going to bring him in, and Polly now returning into this engagement after going down first on this second point, able to find a trade on the other side. Soul Resurgence used then from Svalb. 2 of your teammates have just gone down, including you. So OUG maybe having an opportunity there to try and punish Citadel Gaming, it flounders.
Citadel continue to live up to their name, creating an enclosure, moving up to the high ground and raising the drawbridge, trying to make it impossible for OUG to step back onto the point. Aggressive ultimates now available for OUGs. They have Goddess of Death and that Horn of Proteus, which is matched by Tanuki, so they do have an opportunity to try and get through this, but they have to make sure that they can try and get it when Citadel are on the point. But Citadel, their composition is built around not being on the point. It's built around just picking you from the sides, and that's exactly what we're seeing. They're all completely spread out.
Yeah, just having your vanguards be so pushed up and aggressive, both strategists being high mobility, able to get you in and out of fights as and when needed, and then your 2 duelists just sat 2 postcodes away, being able to do chip damage from a very safe position. I wonder how many eliminations have gone against Melio and Tanuki at this rate. Enzo, though, takes the full brunt of it, but it seems to be the common thing that happens for Citadel Gaming. If there's one pick that goes against them, Polly somehow finds another on the other side.
OUG's hand was forced there as the Jeff came in from Ked, was avoided by Bash with the Fate of Both Worlds, but that meant that OUG had to push up, and they've already been able to get 2, but they have not been able to flip the point. As the portal comes back in, Citadel, they don't want to give up a single percentage here. They're just going to be able to reinforce it. Polly will be able to come through that portal quite quickly, as long as Enzo stays up in this fight, which he will not. There was a chance they could contest this. It looks like OUG might finally be able to flip this. Evans instead, Horn of Proteus into the backline, but Tanuki is the first to fall here. Mola with a perfect angle. Melio goes down. Damage output is just removed from Citadel, and OUG are finally able to get the flip at 75%.
There seems to be a nice combination there with that Heaven's Descent Horn of Proteus, but then you had the Yam Amplifier. Actually, it was the Horn of Proteus on the other side. Actually, Polly got everybody tied down, and Molan used it as a counter-attack, because then Alex was a little bit late with the Yam Amplifier. So at least there's still some stuff for Citadel Gaming to work with as they try and retake this point. But it's hard enough. With everything that you just mentioned about what makes Citadel Gaming's comp so good, it repeats on the other side because it's pretty much a mirrored composition for OUG to be working with too.
With the difference being they don't have a Jeff, as an example, who can also assist in those flanks, but what they do have is the Mantis to damage boost that Hela, keep that pressure on. Melio, though, is going to Astral Flock aggressively onto the point. Goddess of Death drops down, and suddenly they're completely vulnerable, going to be taken out here. Polly, though, was able to use the distraction to take out Spawn, and Enzo takes the 1v1 versus Do. Ked is up on the high ground, sending in the Joyful Splash for as much sustain as possible, and while we did see Citadel come out pretty well in that fight, they weren't able to take any positioning. Alex brings back Tanuki. It's Jeff. Assassin's Charge. Taro is down. And they're into the backline looking for Mash, which they will get. But can they get away with it? Tidal Dirge for the anti-heal. Has to use a map heal. Is just going to yeet them off the edge.
Smash that actually got a win over Citadel Gaming in Stage 2, playing for Chopped. The revenge for Citadel is a little bit later on in groups. And that fight is going to go the way of Citadel Gaming. There's still that portal play for OUG. It was Enzo that used it before on the other side, as now we're getting towards like 90%. OUG having a lot to work with if they can stall out these kind of fights, and Dewey's going to be the one that swaps over to go for a final touch of second. Could be the final touch of this first map.
for one last portal. They're going in for a flank from above. Portal onto the point, but they're getting zoned out. Polly and, of course, Ked are keeping the pressure on, leaving not much of an opening. That harassment. If Taro's not sieging, then where's the reinforcement? But on the actual point, Polly is dropping low here. Molat is creating a huge amount of a distraction here, but it's picked off into the squid. Hornabronius, Melio double setting up beautifully, and suddenly the numbers for OUG aren't looking that good. There's no BRB. Fate of both worlds will buy them a little bit of time, but the silent seduction will potentially pull them in. Media M finds no target as Enzo goes into melee. Carbon Crush to lock him down. Heaven's Descent! Tidal Surge prevents all healing, groups them up, and we will see OUG burst off the point, and they are taken down. That is going to be map number 1 to Citadel Gaming.
Yeah, Citadel Gaming, we've sort of known them as being pretty good at domination, but this event, certainly the last couple of days, has not really gone in their favour, with all of these games pretty much going to full best-of-3 series. But here, able to win up against OUG, who's been pesky in the right areas, and doing it in a different style. We've been seeing almost Tanuki exclusively on a strategist with these kind of setups from Citadel Gaming so far this event. Now that we see that sort of 2-2-2 setup with the Hela and the Namor, it's looking a lot sharper from him, and OUG not really having too much of a response. Eliminations, it's a complete difference.
You can see that while the eliminations are different, the actual amount of times people were taken down is mostly even until you get to the strategist, and that's where the difference is. Alex and Ken are staying safe while joining their teams on flank. The power of this kind of Zootopia backline, where you can be so mobile, follow up when needed. You saw Ken there in that last fight for a bit, just keeping Polly healed up while fighting on the point, and then just quickly retreating to rejoin their team, and that's where the value is coming in. 21k healing and 25k healing compared to 12k healing and 26. While Mantis healing output is a little bit lower, there is still, of course, the need to make sure that your Vanguards are topped up.
Yeah, they were also on a different strategist because it was 3 of them as well, as we saw Taro play the Ultron. So, yeah, even then it still seems pretty small for Svald.
Still doesn't add up.
Yeah, it's where you're going to try and find those picks. But so far for Citadel, being able to actually show a different side than we've been seeing, able to sort of show quite a lot with the different compositions. Not that I ever think the Citadel are like a one-dimensional team, but it's just that what they've been playing so far has been very standard for them, which maybe is a reason why Na'Vi and FlyQuest were able to get such a good read on them in the end, like knowing what map Citadel would like to take you to with Yggdrasil, knowing the kind of priorities they put in the draft and trying to get a one-sided Jeff. Citadel Gaming using this game, which really only means for seeding, as a way to try out stuff and show that they aren't just a one-trick pony that they might be seeming at this event.
It's really good to see Citadel starting to spread their wings a little bit. We have seen them play similar competitions to this, but like you said, they are evolving, they are changing throughout this, and honestly, overall Ultra Gaming are making them work for it as usual, but Citadel, this is very strong looking in terms of performance from them.
I imagine that OUG have been loving to go to Midtown, but that's not a bad map for Citadel Gaming either. They love a sort of nighttime brawl over in the streets of New York, and it's been a map that's gone well with them for the most part, albeit we've not seen that much of it in Stage 2 in comparison to Stage 1, where it was one of the maps that actually qualified them for the mid-season finals. So at least there, it's like OUG, they have the choice to take us somewhere a little bit different, see if they can maybe throw in a curveball, knowing that Citadel Gaming's results on Jalia haven't been great. Maybe that's a choice. Maybe that's a choice.
It could be an option, like you said. Well, Jalia hasn't been their best performance, that could be, but we haven't seen it as much from OUG, so we've got a lot of flexibility when it comes to that. We're not even going to make you wait. We're making up for the time that we had in those previous series on some of the other days where we had some teething issues, and we are just going to bring you straight into it, and it is going to be Midtown. OUG, like clockwork at this point.
Yeah, Citadel Gaming haven't played it so far at this event, but usually they would go to Yggdrasil for one, but also it is just usually the convoy game mode full stop, whether it's Araco, whether it's Midtown. That's always worked really, really well for Citadel Gaming, no matter what. It just seems to be the way that they're able to just keep stalling fights, keep Polly standing on an objective for 7 minutes, those kind of things.
They have
but also
strategies as well.
Yeah. So, fair play to both the teams, because there's only really just bragging rights for OUG and Citadel to play for. Citadel for seeding. Both teams are like, let's just go into it straight away. Let's not wait around. We don't need to talk strats. Let's just send it.
Tanuki, don't tease me with that Black Panther. We have not seen at this event so far, as it seems to be Daredevil and even for one game Magic who have taken the role of those melee duelists in these first setups. But this is the map where OUG have been busting out the Iron Fist basically every single time. Citadel just going to ban it out, because at this point, that Iron Fist has been problematic, and while some teams have dealt with it, you don't get a lot of chances to practice versus Iron Fist. But now, though, we're sticking standard. We're not going to see Mantis on either side. But Citadel, they could guarantee themselves a one-sided Emma Frost here.
A Protect on Magneto first is something, I suppose. Like, for DRP, I'd say mostly. But, like, I feel like Venom would be such a...
Shields for Iron Fist, potentially?
Probably. Or just to go for, like, the mitigation... protect the president as much as you possibly can. But Citadel Gaming, going for something that we are seeing a lot more outside of like one-sided Mantis to one-sided Jeff, is like the Emma Frost. So this time, in the last map at the very least, Emma Frost was protected from both teams. It meant that there was no ban. So a one-sided Emma Frost on a game mode like this, smart from Citadel Gaming. Lots of teams going in this direction too.
Captain America going to be taken away. That is, of course, the Poly Special. Salute in chat. And there it is! Well deserved. Finally, we have seen Molan Ran force the Iron Fist ban here at the Grand Finals for Marvel Rivals Ignite. Love to see it. We love it when we start to see those real special picks getting banned away.
I'd count that as a win for OUG. They take the map. It feels like a sort of Exodia moment of like, all right, you've been forced to ban out the Iron Fist. It's chopped. It's done. But it does genuinely make sense for Citadel Gaming. If there's characters that you're worried about and like all of the synergies that can make up to it, especially with, like you said, if you're sort of protecting the Magneto because it's how it's going to play with the Iron Fist, it basically makes it all for naught. The Adam is going to be banned out too. Knowing the Citadel Gaming, your triple strategist, Adam Warlock is in there quite a bit. And the Venom is also banned out, so it is just trying to go for the divey compositions for Citadel Gaming, to go for something a little bit more brawly in their approach. Stuff like Groot, we're seeing a lot more of at the moment.
Adam going to be one-sided saved here. Last ban for Citadel. They don't have Venom on their own side, so they choose to take away the Jeff from their opponents, as they had the option to either ban out Venom or Jeff, and it looks like Jeff will be the priority here. The first objective point, Venom can be useful, but you'll see, like you say, a lot of teams lean more heavily into Groot and stuff like that. So with that Jeff taken away, you're at least removing that extra movement speed and some burst damage, and importantly, it does mean that Citadel now have a one-sided Jeff, which OUG do not have in Citadel. While they haven't used it in a while, that's teasing us. I don't know if that's coming out the door from Tanuki.
Can you imagine? Please. Because I think that says a lot, though, because it is, like, I think a lot of teams, when talking about Sparker from Virtus Pro, there was a genuine sentiment that came out quite a lot. It's like, why is Sparker, one of the best duelist players in the world, on a strategist? Doesn't matter which strategist. Why are you putting LeBron in goal? It's that kind of vibe. So I think here it's a little bit of like, if you know, Tanuki with the Jeff compositions, it hasn't been working out. He is on defense. He is locking it in. This is just sending a message. But I would have loved to see a head-to-head Iron Fist here, you know?
Defensive Iron Fist as well. OUG have mostly been using it on attack, so this is interesting. But the thing I was going to say before I get distracted by Tanuki aura farming is the fact that Tanuki is their Storm player, and Citadel, having a one-sided Jeff, opens up the strategy that they've used quite a few times at this point when you're dealing with triple strategists, taking them out via using Jeff and Nado. But this is aggressive from OUG. They've got Venom and Thorn as the front line, with the Wolverine and the Star-Lord here as the back line. They are going heavy on the damage.
I was hoping to see Molan Ran actually pull out some Daredevil, really. I think that works. Tanuki, well, we didn't see much of the Iron Fist on screen, and DRP, who's over on the Thor, takes him out near enough instantly. It's the... Emma Frost is able to grab him up. The disengage is going to be a little bit tricky, even when you have the crystal connecting onto him. Damage not quite there. Molan Ran is taking a big hit, able to just survive by the skin of his teeth, and Tanuki's going to be back in this engagement still on the Iron Fist.
Extra mobility, very quick character to reinforce onto the point here. Molan Ran's just looking for someone to pick up, see if they can get a quick pickup, but no, they go down. Holly once again showing that not only are they a dive tank, they are an extremely proficient Groot. And Tanuki rejoins the fight, going to try and chase down that Thor, look for the run back. Get back here, DRP! Entering into the 1v1, and the percentage damage is going to be good, but the crowd control the DRP does offer does make this fight a little bit more difficult. There's the lightning domain. Tanuki forced to back away. That awakening rune, a little bit hard to deal with. moved, and Tanuki's actually getting chased down here. Psylocke not respecting the 1v1. Molan Run with the pickup here. Deflect, dive away, Guardian Shield, and they've rejoined the team.
Pretty sick. I mean, if I had seen that fight of like Tanuki on the Iron Fist going up against DRP's 4 in that corner, I would have just assumed it was AI if I just saw the clip, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit unorthodox, but that was always the strength of Citadel Gaming with how they're sort of working. Molan Ran switching away from the Wolverine over to Psylocke, has the ultimate, already picked up 2, picked up 3, without needing to really do anything else. So that's in the back pocket, as well as a lot of stuff for OUG. A very clean fight with a small dedication on the Amplifier and the Feast of the Abyss, which is a lovely combination.
Setting themselves up very nicely here. God of Thunder coming in for the first engage on the setup after the re-engage through a portal of Tanuki to bring back this fight to allow Citadel to keep this going. Silent Seduction coming on out from the side of Enzo to see if they can lock down anyone of the OUG with Mash Fade of both worlds, though they are attacking through this quite nicely. And with It's Jeff nowhere near, suddenly Citadel are extremely vulnerable to Molan Ran, who's trying to find the right angle here for Dance of the Butterfly to melt on through Guardian Barrier to try and absorb it, but it just will not be enough to protect Melio, and they even get Enzo before he being taken down.
Vagamoto only connects onto Mash, and I'm not seeing that HP. Oh no, there it goes, it started to dip away. Able to survive just a little bit more as Taro Cookie has a Galactic Legend in hand. I feel like now's a good time to use it, but it might not even be needed. You've got the portal play and everything used from Citadel Gaming to keep stalling out this engagement. And whilst Polly did have to strangle the prison, you don't want to use it here. Feels that Citadel Gaming are able to stagger out these fights a little bit and just keep buying as much time as they can, but it feels like it's been a while since we've seen all 6 take this coordinated effort together.
Strangling Prison coming on in for the setup to try and lock them down. Taro's got a good angle here, and Citadel aren't seeming to find the defensive position as in comes the It's Jeff onto the backline, gets the Luna, but there's nowhere near for an environmental to take them out, so it's just going to try and remove them from the borders. DRP is popping off, gets the triple, and Citadel Gaming's defenses are disintegrated again. The structure falls, and OUG continue their push.
Yeah, it's so far working out pretty well for Citadel Gaming. Tanuki switching onto various characters, having to move up to the Strange. Now back onto the Star-Lord. And Melio now actually is over onto the Rocket, so you have triple strategist. It is just a moving chairs around. Tanuki back on the Jeff, there we go. And so now, yeah, it seems to be what they're trying to build around. Nice to see Melio a little bit on the Bucky as well, just a character that we've not seen Citadel Gaming play all that much recently. And a little bit precarious from Dewey as Polly's managed to be able to grab the catch, and the counter-attack on this defense coming in thick and fast.
And this is exactly what we need to see from Citadel. OUG we're going for Thorn and Venom. How do you deal with that? If your opponents, they even had Psylocke and Star-Lord at one point, which they still do, you need anti-dive. Your opponents are trying to pressure your backline, and one of the best options there is Bucky, the Winter Soldier. And Melio is going to be reacting with that with Enzo, bringing up one of the other best options, aka that Emma Frost.
The Thor's very good when you have these very death ball compositions that can't move anywhere, but when you're picking a fight with Jeff that is just incredibly mobile, there's only so much that DRP can do. He's going to switch over to the Venom to allow a little bit more of that dive composition alongside Dewey that's on the Magneto. Dance the Butterflies used from Molan Ran, but it seemed very out of sync of what everybody else was doing. Enzo's going to use the Silent Seduction alongside the Fate of Both Worlds, which I think was forced out from Molan Ran's ultimate just a few seconds ago.
Chasing on in, looking to put some pressure onto that point and force him to retreat even through that Fate of Both Worlds. Galactic Legend comes on in, but Polly has already set them up. Taro's just looking for a trade-off at this point. Polly is chased down, but is able to retreat around the corner. It's Jeff for a little bit of extra protection for the team with the extra healing as Melio looks to Jules, can't land a Trooper's Fist. Tainted Voltage comes in, and now it's Tanuki on the chase to try and get Taro, but the healing output is too good from Svold.
Has to disengage all the way back out to Spawn. Might be looking to change up the character from the looks. Yeah, Molan Ran is going over to the Storm. Taro over onto the Bucky. So not the Jeff Nader on one side, but they just want to go for an ultimate that's going to harass exactly what Citadel Gaming are trying to set up on this defense. So they're mostly playing close in together. They moved away from the Rocket themselves. And right now it's just a triple strategist both set up again with Ken having to use the invisible boundary under a lot of pressure. Enzo goes down in the middle of it though, just from all of this like damage that's been thrown out. And Feast of the Abyss waiting for DRP, seeing what he can kind of grab up and stack himself on. And the follow-ups there, at least from Molan Ran, the Storm has actually been working out quite well for them so far.
The pressure's working extremely well. Taro onto that Winter Soldier as well, giving them some extra harassment and some crowd control of their own as DRP is trying to zone Citadel Gaming away. Can't move forward 2 bodies, so it's at half speed here. Try and make its way onto the point. Enzo getting sieged on in there with the extra pressure, back with the AoE shots, knockback with the mag cannon. But everyone here is here for Citadel to try and defend this with only BTRM available for OUG, yet straggling present for Poly for the opening of the fight, forcing the retreat as to try to protect their team, but they just can't do so. Completely wrapped around. Moland's going to return, but no one else will. Tanuki is going down, the numbers just aren't in their favor right now. The meteor is popped, it finds nothing. Omega Hurricane has to be used just to make sure they can keep bodies onto this point. The damage output is good. Kraken Impact to try and finish the job as Melio is reasoning through the point, removing the bodies, but timer has been bought. Seraphis is going to portal back onto the point to give the extra couple seconds. Wolverines come back from Do as well, so they can try and force people off the board. With everyone dropping low, DRP is going to Thorn for extra rotation. Cosmic Guard Amplifier for a little bit of a bonus health and some extra damage. It's Jeff, was able to grab at least one. The cart moves forward as Citadel have to rush the point as they got Taro removed from the board. Tanuki with the protection, and finally, OUG step off the point.
There was not enough wick left. Just a brief moment for OUG to jump off of the point was enough for Citadel to stop it just before the second checkpoint. And I guess at this point it is a case for Citadel Gaming to try out some different stuff now that they're going back to the kind of more standard thing that we've seen from them. And this is what I wanted to see. We saw a glimmer of the Daredevil of Tanuki on Yggdrasil's path. I think it was against FlyQuest, but we haven't had the chance to cast it so far. It would be nice, Tanuki, I would say.
Would be cool to see any just of the interesting melee characters as they sort of fell off. We actually saw a lot of magic during our actual Ignite stage.
Yeah.
But that was the main one. We didn't see much Black Panther. We didn't see much Daredevil, obviously, because it came out after our stage ended. So if we're getting to see that, I will be pleased.
Well, it's like I think back to the first interview that we had with Enzo after the first Citadel Gaming win of Stage 2. And he was like, one of the things that we really wanted to focus on when we came fourth from the mid-season finals is we need to be good at any character because any character could be meta. And I remember them making very quick adaptations to what the enemy team were running. Just very quick, like, okay, they're doing this, and it kind of counters our composition. You go this, I go that, bing, bang, bong. They managed to sort of turn paper into rock against scissors. So it feels a little bit like Citadel Gaming have sort of had this general idea of what they wanted to work with, but it's been a little bit firm. Now, there's no better time to just show out a little bit of Daredevil. Like, we all expect Tanuki to be able to play it. He's going to go for the Iron Fist because he definitely wants Merlin Rand to be feeling it a bit more. Who's playing the thing, which is essentially Iron Fist. Right?
It's pre-Iron, it's Rock Fist. Moving on to the backline. Ironically, the thing's Carapace is actually stronger than Iron canonically, as Tanuki is forced to back away, taking a big chunk of damage, but will be healed up and be able to pre-armor up with that bonus health from the meditation very shortly. Bolan coming on in with the anti-street charge, but is going to get caught. But one of the few things that can lock down the thing, that Carbon Crush going for the Fantastic Force team up for a little bit of bonus health. Do is also charging in here. They went very aggressive with their front line here with that Captain America thing combo to try and prevent Citadel from just pushing forward, pushing on through. But Tanuki has found Zoo, who will return at the Battle Rebirth peak, and the extra bonus damage is going to be pretty useful here. The Straggling Prism will, however, set Citadel up for the final push, and with the It's Jeff, everyone sustains as they were dropping low on the point.
It's such a good POV to be just watching Merlin Rand just absolutely squaring up. Buy one, get one free with these fists, and the Globbering time is going to be used, but the Invisible Boundary is going to silence it, as well as that Silent Seduction is just going to take him out of the server. OUG holding on for a good amount of time in this first point of Midtown. They still obviously have like the Strange Portal and stuff to work with, but Citadel Gaming cleaning up house with big dedications with some of those ults.
Pushing on through. Portal from the side of OUG not going to be utilized here. They do have Karmic Revival built up though, so they can go in for one on-foot defense here, and then potentially portal back, and Strange was not bad out. Trying to push up onto the point, the Street Charge once again, trying to zone away Tanuki with all that extra mobility. And they're almost already built up towards that clobbering time, but it was got at the half cooldown, but that percentage damage is proving to be very difficult to deal with. The Straggling Prism onto the point of the Kraken. If for the reset, Tanuki got Taro Cookie, which means that Cocoon will have to be used. The Karmic Revival's already out though for the revive, brings back Mash, and Tanuki is trying to chase down Stragglers after they come out of that Adam Warlock Karmic Revival onto the point. The mobility is huge, but the evasion is effective. Smolk can't escape forever though. Clobbering time will come out, but it feels like they're delaying the inevitable unless Freedom Charge comes on out for the bonus health.
He managed to survive with a little bit of help that was coming in from Ken. It's in that engagement with him. It's Jeff is available, might not even be necessary, as the point is pretty much on the edge of being touched. Now the portal is going to come out from Taro. But there's not too much there to try and stall it at this moment. I think an Invisible Woman is going to have to be the one for MASH to keep things going for the time being. The Arm Amplifier thrown on top to allow a bit more damage, and enough actually for DRP, who switched over to the Wolverine. You got Black Panther in play. This is just like a bingo card of all of the characters that we've not seen yet.
The delay is good, like you say, the Black Panther coming on out to just try and push onto the point. The damage output is good. MASH takes out Melio, and after getting that hold, is just immediately retreating. You cannot use this BP for a full defense, so they're retreating back to spawn with the hypermobility they have and move back to the cap.
Oh man, just... I mean, this is what you want to see in these kind of games, really. OUG trying to pick up a map, and Citadel Gaming have struggled to sort of get their wins in a 2-0 fashion. Have to try and push things a little bit further as they're less than a minute down. There is, in the hands of Polly, that Strangling Prison. He's waiting to see if Melio can get online with a Kraken's Impact, because that combination is so good at clearing out the fights. Last Stand is going to go into the invisible boundary for OUG. It's a perfect pick on to Alex, interrupting the invisible boundary that they just set down just a second before. A great pick in the end for DRP, who's the tank player, the Vanguard, able to switch over to this role. Just the adjustments that OUG made after this portal play seem to have been working. There's 30 seconds left for Citadel.
Drive them back one more time. Citadel have to regroup with 20 seconds remaining. Looking at the ultimate economy here, we have that Strangling Prison. We're about to have its Jeff and Living Chi, and of course Kraken Impact, whereas OUG, all they really have is that Config Yard Amplifier, and they're about to have Aya Magamoto. But with DRP down, they're just going to have to rush on in on something fast. The Wolverine should do the job, using the elevation, pulling them into the bus, and that bus could be taking Citadel to a higher seed here if they can keep them trapped. So into the backline with the Living Chi, but he's not able to find anyone in the backline. Aya Magamoto comes on out. The immediate focus, it's Jeff. Swallows multiple members, trying to take Strange away from the point to keep them far away from their team. But we're still seeing a lot of interruption from Due with that freedom charge for the bonus help onto the point. Mola's up to 50% on the Karmic Revival, which could be enough as we see Tanuki fall. Citadel are dropping low. They have no defensive abilities, whereas OUG, they are healthy. They are holding. Enzo is down. Tanuki is down. Polly is down. And Due is charging through. And Freedom is pushing onto the point, and they are locking down Citadel.
Sweet Christmas, what on earth is going on? That was a dirty way for OUG to be able to take this map. Citadel Gaming definitely going into it with a more lax approach, you could tell from like the Iron Fist, but OUG... that's either one for the record books or that's one to delete the VOD for. And me right now, Tetra, I can't decide which is which, really. A good way for OUG to take a map and potentially take their first series, but playoffs is out of reach for them. And Citadel Gaming, unable to go through the stage with a 2-0 win.
Due, well-deserved MVP there, by the way. The substitute coming in from Dream Plus in China, the Chinese substitute for this team, and they saved that point so many times. They dived the point, they sustained with Freedom Charge for any extra sustain they needed, and they were able to delay long enough for Portal to come out from Taro Cookie. Just absolute chef's kiss play from Due.
You got DRP as well. It's high up on the eliminations of final hits. It was a little bit of a musical chairs, I think, on the roles that the team were playing at a point. But considering that this is just a slapdash team that's been put together for Over/Under to sort of replace some of the players that were unable to make it, the synergy is there. These guys could do very well if the Ignite is coming back for 2026. Maybe this is a team that you want to be looking to pick up. But at the very least, I think for like DRP and MASH from EMEA, we know well, like they're showing it like, when it comes to AUGs next year, potentially, like, yeah, we can play at all sorts of teams. We played with like 4 Chinese players and we took a map of the Citadel, you know? But I think for Citadel, it's a case of trying to make this 2-2 work a little bit more. But there were instances right at the end where we see the Strangling Prison used from Polly. Melio did have that Kraken's Impact. It wasn't used for whatever reason. Maybe they felt that the fight was easily won, so they didn't want to dedicate another ultimate to it. But there's definitely those like bits of synergy that you would sort of expect to be in play. Non-existent. It's odd. It's hard to really gauge what Citadel want to do.
And it has been shown in their matchups as, once again, Citadel continue their theme of every single series they've got into, they have dropped at least one map, in some cases 2, of course, in the ones that they lost. Citadel have yet to get a clean series, and that is going to continue. They're still feeling it out, it feels, but you're running out of time. Yeah, you're in the playoffs, but that just means there are even less games available for you to really just try and fix up these issues before you have to start playing against the best of the best, which they already are, because this group is terrifying.
I imagine my general sense is because we did like have no break, we just ran it straight to map 2, that we would do the same. Like Citadel would just be like, yep, let's go here. The one thing to say is that usually they go to Yggdrasil, but because we've already played a convoy, we have to go to Convergence. So I think it is Central Park, so it's, you know, a couple of blocks away, I guess, in game, but it's something that we haven't really seen like twice, maybe at most. Also, complete segue. Oh no, you have it too, because you were telling me before about the top button stuff, Henry VIII. Like, because I was like looking in the camera, the feed, I was like, wait, you've got both your buttons up.
It's a
like,
hidden.
Are you just throwing me asunder? But no. But we're looking at, I imagine it would be Central Park, but this is like a good chance. Yeah. It's like they picked it once. That's how much they really try to go towards Convoy. Maybe you just got Heart of Heaven. Just honestly, for the poos and giggles, as they say.
There's a lot of options here, like you say, with Central Park being one of their main options, Hall of Jalmir not being an option that we potentially see from Citadel that
Probably
often.
not.
They seem to lean a bit further away from it. Heart of Heaven, though, would be the more wild choice, and with you already being qualified, maybe getting your reps in on that could be extremely useful for them, and they have chosen it. We've just been told by production, Heart of Heaven will be our third map in this series for Citadel to try and win this out and try and improve their seeding, or for OUG to go home with their heads held high.
Yeah, it's a very like flub it we ball attitude, I think, for both teams to be showing this. We saw it a little bit from this group already, and OUG got a little bit of a try against FlyQuest as well, didn't they?
Yes,
so like they're going to leave maybe the most experienced team on the new map, and I mean, they like to play Iron Fist. It would be like canonically like pretty set. I would love to just see the head-to-head. If you're going to go for it, like Tanuki, don't ban out the Iron Fist from Merlin Rant and then play it yourself. Like head-to-head, really like allow it. I think that's what they were saying in chat going into this. But we do get to see what Citadel want to do on this newest Convergence map, and both teams taking out the Mantis first.
I want them just to find a domination map, just have Tanuki and Molad Rad just start in like the center of Hell's Heaven, and just whichever one gets the point wins. And they can just brawl that forever. We're heading on in, it's going to be a double Mantis ban, and OUG, this time they're going to take out the Jeff. While Citadel did not win with that Jeff, they did get real close, because once again, both Ken and Tanuki can play it, and they have some great eats on it.
Could you imagine if OUG like one-sided the like Jeff and protected it, just to be like, well, you took our Iron Fist, we're going to take your Jeff. Like, it almost becomes petty in their approach. But Citadel Gaming really seeing that this is maybe like a triple strategist setup. You know, Mantis taken out, Adam taken out, trying to go for some of the stalls. OUG are going to be defending first. And even a Jeff and Captain America, like OUG very much respecting Polly's Cap, making sure that that's not going to be in this series at all.
Very fair. And that Captain America, it's a good map for them. There's a lot of verticality. The Cap can actually jump. That's a little bit harder for some other characters to traverse. Once you get to that second point, that can be extremely difficult to deal with. The Jeff going to be taken out on both sides, like you say, so we're not going to be seeing any shenanigans with the fish. And it also does lower the value of Venom at least a little bit, but never fully gone, because Anti-Heal and Feast from the Abyss is a great setup. With any kind of setup with something like a Psylocke, which has not been banned out from either team, it's essentially a one-shot on whoever they want. There's too many options in terms of banning that out, so I expect Venom maybe at least targeted by one of these teams. We'll have to see, as Invis will be protected by OUG.
Bucky taken out right at the end. Feels like this would be a really good draft, I think, for Citadel if OUG were the kind of team to be running a lot of triple strategists, because with triple strategists, you would run the Bucky as your solo duelist. So, but like, I don't think OUG are going to mind too much there. You have got a one-sided Adam for Citadel that you can work with, probably on your defense, but maybe it's something that they want to get some reps on, because we have seen Melio picking up the Adam, I think in that case. It's like when they're running triple strategists, sometimes it's Melio, sometimes it's Tanuki going for this approach. And a Hella ban out.
Like that.
Means that you're not going to see that team up with Namor either if they want to go more of a 2-2-2. Would also be nice to see the Daredevil from Tanuki on this map. Again, it feels like canonically...
Came out at the same time.
Yeah, pretty nice. It feels like they go hand in hand, and there's no better chance to show off the new content, right, than esports. It's what we're here for, baby, I think.
OUG have secured themselves the one-sided Hela Namor, but the Venom composition is available for both sides. Citadel Gaming are the ones who are currently hovering it, whereas OUG don't seem that bothered. Both teams have themselves Everfrost as well. A lot of these big, powerful picks have gone through. The draft phase is extremely crowded right now in terms of who gets priority.
I love these kind of series because, like, even though there's very little to play for, there's a lot of goofiness about it. I guess there is the chance of, like, Citadel, they don't want to lose out on that confidence and make sure that day 2 and day 3 are not just both days of losses, you'd pretty much be set as being the 4th seed coming out of playoffs as well at that rate, I'd say. For OUG, leaving with a win would be nice. And Tanuki's actually going to be on the Ultron, as they're sticking towards this like triple strategist with Melio on the Psylocke. So I think they have access to the bookie, no? Because it was them that banned it. They're going for something a little bit different.
They have pre-armored up as well, so they are planning on actually rolling this out of Sport. This is a map with some great sightlines for flyers, though, so there is some value to be gained here from this Ultron, just as the essentially second duelist in the setup here. And you can see that with the fact that they have gone for a very healthy backline with the Invisible Woman and the Rocket. They can keep Polly and Enzo very sustained here. Don't have to worry as much about the drone. Tidal Dirge coming in to set up, but Polly just tanking on through, avoiding the initial setup there.
OUG actually being able to play this map once, so it was a close loss against FlyQuest, also the 3rd map in that best of 3 series. And Enzo on this attack are able to actually get a pick onto the enemy of EMEA that's filling in for this OUG roster of DRP. And it's a little bit more scrappy considering the composition of OUG is to sort of spread out both the Namor and the Hela. They have been sort of hunted down by dogs for Citadel as they've just managed to find all of these picks, flushed them out, and taken a point seemingly in quick fashion unless DRP can go in for the portal play.
Tanuki's going to be set up beautifully for this, as the portal's going to come in for one last defense, utilizing the miss as a place to retreat if need be for that defense. Our camera went through the portal, Oopsie Daisy, as Mash is going to get that healing output to allow DRP to try and step on through, but Citadel still have control. They have that range of Ultron as well, so they can create a choke point on the doorway, but they might not need to, because one by one, we're starting to see OUG members go down. Invisible Boundary has to be used just to try and sustain this retreat coming out of Citadel, as they're going to burn Cosmic Guard, Amplifier, and Rage of Ultron for huge burst damage. They chase on in, Ken even getting stuck in on the action, as Citadel break open that first point.
Only dedicating 2 ultimates in the end and holding on to 4 others. OUG, this composition, like, that's why they protected the Invisible Woman as well, because you can put these like barriers up for Hela and Namor that can fight from distance, but Citadel Gaming are going to close that distance that quickly and fight you on point. It pretty much is bringing a knife to a gunfight in these cases. Melio also finding Molan Ran just as OUG on this defense trying to back up, reset, group up together. At least there is a trade out as Polly on the Venom was taken out, but Melio wants to go for a little bit more. Dance of the Butterflies is going to string right into a pick on the side of Melio, but he's traded out. It's only that one that he's going to get.
Dance of the Butterfly had to be used. He got caught in that Soul Drainer from Taro Cookie, so had to drop it just to try and survive, or at least trade out. Forced out a couple moves from OUG, meaning the Citadel were able to keep this push going, but here comes DRP grabbing Tanuki, meaning that the
interrupted
is available here. The interrupt, French Venom once again returns. Wee! As Du is trying to go into the diamond form to duel out once again with Enzo, but can't find the first setup here as both teams are just sort of posturing, regrouping. Dance of the Butterfly with the side not yet available, and Silent Seduction comes on out. Alex Invisible Boundary keeps the team topped up as Melio is just continuously on the flank.
Yeah, this fight has pretty much been non-stop so far, trying to work out where these engagements are. How about just everywhere across this attacking side as the objective is starting to move along? Now Dewey is being pulled into the fight for Force Physics. He doesn't have much support when it comes to the engagement, but he's trying to touch the point, stall things for as long as possible. And now it feels that OUG are just kind of one by one trying to sit in as much as they possibly can. Even a Horn of Proteus dedicated, able to take out one of the strategists, but a Rage of Ultron from Tanuki is going to be used. The Invisible Boundary trying to hold on for Svald. But this is just a brawl happening so far, Tetcher.
It is a brawl, but it once again seems to be very similar to last game, with OUG just throwing bodies to buy time, but the fact is last game that worked. So the going in with the fate of both worlds for that extra sustain, Melio finding Mash once that expires, and that's all the defensive abilities for OUG going to be utilized. But here comes Angela sailing past as Due brings out the Angel of Heaven, who will get taken down, and second point is also achieved for Citadel.
Yeah, it was just a drive-by jump scare, I think, for Dewey. That's now gone back over towards the Emma Frost. And we get to see a little bit more of the object of the map, because the last time we saw OUG play, they were only able to get just before that second checkpoint. So a finish out on third would be a statement for Citadel Gaming to be making. They chose this map. They want to show the world exactly how they play on the newest Convergence map so far here in Marvel Rivals. And the Silent Seduction is going to allow Enzo to create a little bit more space for Melio, who's coming in with the Dance of the Butterflies. A couple more picks in their favor, and OUG just losing out 5 players very quickly. It's a complete team wipe.
Once again, the backline is taken away, but it is going to be delays. DRP continuing the OUG tradition of throwing bodies at the point to buy time and just keep the delays going. That was essentially a full team wipe for Citadel, and the car barely moved because someone was back there causing problems, causing delays, and that is going to allow OUG to respawn, group up, and Iron Fist has made the return once again to a thematic map.
All right, Tanuki, you know what to do. To be fair, he is on the Ultron, and he is also about to have Ultimate too. But you're right, it's almost like OUG sort of know how Citadel Gaming play on their defense, because Citadel love to just try and force out as many fights as possible when the objective has to start moving. Rage of Ultron going to be used, shooting down and takes out MASH. But the Iron Fist of Molan Ran not afraid to just go toe-to-toe with Polly, going in for the fight and in the engagement. Feast of the Abyss is available if he wants to try and get a little bit of respite from the onslaught of damage that he is taking in from these melee characters. Jan Amplify is going to make it a little bit more scary in the end as Melio goes down. BR is going to bring him back into the fray very shortly, but it might bring him right back into this Goddess of Death.
Living Chi to try and focus on down, takes out the Cosmic Yard Amplifier of Citadel, removing a lot of their sustain. Goddess of Death, though, was not able to find much value as they were taken down. Alex picked off on the backline. The lockdown, though, with the Carbon Crush, but it still stayed on through with the block and the extra sustain piece of the Abyss for the bonus damage with Dance of the Butterfly to burst on through. Do falls, MASH falls, and we're starting to see OUG melt here. Molan is trying to escape, but just cannot get away. Returns again, and we're seeing OUG just being picked off, but they are still just throwing bodies at the point, but for once they cannot reach as Citadel achieve the triple.
And do it with 2 minutes left on the clock. That feels... I mean, if I'm thinking of any other Convergence map, Jalia, Symbiotic Service, Central Park, if you've got 2 minutes on the clock and you finish third, it's done. No, like, OUG would have a lot to try to do to match this. And Citadel Gaming, I do like that we're seeing Ultron. You know, I could understand from stage 2 that he was very powerful. People might want to see a little bit less of him, but it is that age-old thing in esports of when a character gets nerfed, people think, oh, it's done, there's no point in playing him. Then people start to try and experiment with a bit more and go, oh no, actually he's still pretty good in the right places, and then he starts finding pick rate again. So at least Citadel Gaming showing everybody that Ultron isn't completely like down in a ditch somewhere. There are some viable moments to try and show him, and maybe it's a Heart of Heaven meta for Ultron in the future. Who knows?
Honestly, just commit to damage. If you get good angles, good line of sights with some, just treat him as a damage dealer, then he does fit at least a little bit. But the fact is, where people are trying to use him, how he was used last stage, it's where we're starting to see the worries. That healing output just isn't enough anymore, as we're starting to look into our next point. OUG now on the attack. And so far, they're not going to mix it up too much. Taro Cookie's going to move over to the Star-Lord. Molan will be bringing out the Psylocke.
3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area.
It almost looks like OUG swooping in instantly. Dewey seeing if he could scout out some information. Actually, he's just trying to cut this choke out completely. See if he can peel away this defense from Citadel Gaming. But if I'm them, you're keeping a keen eye where Dewey's trying to go in for this dive, but making sure that nobody else is able to follow up on him. But he's trying to scout out, take as many of the cloaks out of a position, make them redundant to an extent. Regeneration Domain's not going to have much use there. And Molan Ran also scouting out to see if there's a coordinated effort that they can put on together.
Into the backline, finds the real Loki, and the Invis, and the Assassin's Charge. Goodbye,
Nice.
Melio. But in the meantime, DRP's been taken down in the front line, as has MASH, meaning that a lot of these defenses, a lot of these attackers for OUG are already off the point. When they're starting to pick off people on the backline, they're getting punished in most of the other fights. Melio just returns from the cocoon and immediately gets the counter.
He just gets his revenge, like call an ambulance, but not for me. So now, like, I guess getting the passive out for Melio is good. It's a good focus for OUG. There's not going to be that Bira back on the defense for Citadel Gaming currently, so it just feels that outside of that play, the rest of OUG, the other 4 players, we've just not seen them so far on this attacking side. Now that they're starting to come through with Dewey that swapped over towards the group, whole different approach, but managed to get through this choke, as we're seeing, I think, Paulie jumping in on the Venom to get into the back line. It's now a little bit more scrappy in its affair, but Dewey finds a little bit more than he wanted, gets reset again.
And able to caught with the Cosmic Cluster for a little bit of extra burst damage, but not able to find any targets at least yet. Polly dropped down to half, but is still keeping the pressure on. Will retreat off the point here. DRP build up to 100%, but can't seem to find much more to chase with. OUG, they're going to move over to that storm. They're going to try and get some damage bonus. See if Taro can maybe get some one-shots onto the side of Citadel Gaming, or at least something on the very long ranging up this first point.
So the seduction going to be used against the invisible boundary of OUG's attack, and Polly gets caught by the Carbon Crush, able to at least escape for the time being, as DRP is going to use it on the other side. Invisible boundary is going to be traded, but look how many ultimate Citadel Gaming have in their disposal as and when it's needed. Fate of Both Worlds is going to be used from OUG, but still, we're not seeing picks show up in the elimination feed at all.
Trying to push onto the point, crack and impact to push on through. Tanuki with the first reset onto Due, finds Mash isolated, but double lockdown frozen into the diamond form. Carbon Crush, they're going to melt on through the rest of that. Heller as well, and comes into the backline with that Omega Hurricane, and OUG are creating an opening. They push on through, the Karmic Revival comes on Alba. CTG are going down. Portals coming out from Tanuki for one last defense.
There's just so much like cleave damage has been thrown in from Storm with that Karmic Revival. Harder to get the eliminations through it now, though, since the rework of the ultimate a couple of months ago, a couple of seasons ago at this rate. But still, Citadel Gaming have found their way to stall things out again, off Tanuki switching over towards the Stranger, go for the port play. Any form of delay that Citadel have had to use, they've now got everything out, but there's only 1 minute left for OUG to find stuff again. Able to at least take a pick onto Tanuki, but there's only 3-4 players left on the point for Citadel Gaming, as the BTOM looking to clear out a few more from Dewey.
And finally, OUG will grab this first point. Citadel Gaming forced to reset, regroup, and set themselves up for a second point defense. Winter Soldier for Tanuki. These tunnels can make it very hard to dodge that bionic hook if you are not careful. OUG continuing to run this storm, it seems, for the moment, making the most of that damage boost on Taro Cookie.
It seemed that when we saw Citadel Gaming attacking, it was just a lot of fights. Not really set positions, because I guess they've not really been defined yet. Oh, you don't certainly want to show them in a seeding game like this. Moline Ran taken out early, and as a response, OUG, a player down, want to use that Sonic Seduction, see if they can trade something out. Unable to, Polly actually takes it now to a 4 versus 6 in favor of Citadel Gaming, and they've not really had to use all that much. OUG floundering, trying to use ultimates to rectify it, balance the bugs as much as they possibly can, but nothing is working. They're losing out on players, and Citadel Gaming stalling out.
Invisible boundary expiring, allowing Polly for the pickup here, but only Fold has gone down for OUG as Taro finally falls just before Mashka, but have potentially saved them with that fate of both worlds as they work close up to each other. And we're seeing, like you say, a spawn hold coming in. OUG zoned away from the car brutally here. Finally going to go for the opening with the Omega Hurricane into the backline of Melio. Needs to get close to his team to get a soul bonds off, and just won't reach in time. They do have the Cocoon though, trying to stay a little bit further as they try to chase down Storm onto the rest of the point fade of both worlds to keep Molan topped up and allow this push to continue, as Enzo is getting a beautiful psionic seduction to split the attackers in two, but CTG can't find the positioning. Alex drops low, but they're still able to trade out onto Taro.
Yeah, a really nice ultimate from Enzo. It didn't lead to any eliminations in the moment, but it's just given Polly and Tanuki the space to isolate the picks one at a time. OUG was very much a Route 1 approach when you have like Merlan Ran with the Omega Hurricane, just try and isolate the right target with Melio, right? You don't know if he has Camera Revival or not, if he has Life Cocoon, you can force that out. Citadel Gaming, their natural reaction was to split. When you mentioned Tetcher, like grouping up together to Soulborn might have been the play. Maybe it wasn't available, hard to gauge. But Enzo, just as OUG was starting to group up to go for another fight, they've lost 2 players in the time that I've sort of mentioned it. So now there's just less than a minute for OUG to keep on pushing. And using this invisible boundary now means that we might not see it at the end of this map.
Even if they get a wipe here, this Karmic Revival, Invisible Boundary and Cosmic Yard Amplifier for the side of Citadel. They have every defensive tool, and OUG cannot afford to be doubled like this. The advantage they have, though, is that they're right next to their own board, moving their classic throw bodies out the point to buy time and overtime will give them at least a little bit extra. Tanuki will fall. Will we see Melio position for a Karmic Revival, as Alex has also dropped quite low? So they're just going to let Tanuki and Polly go down and just wait, reset, and take their time in overtime. They don't want to burn abilities before OUG are forced to be dead. Molan over to the Iron Fist, those are going to take out Melio. No more Cocoon. Cosmic Guard Amplifier has to come out because they realize if they're too lackadaisical about this, then OUG are just going to push on through.
Regardless of death from Taro, it's all of these players are hidden into the alcove, but he's still able to find 2 as the touch was still attempted from Citadel Gaming. It's a fight won in the end from OUG, and whilst Melio does have the Camera Revival, why use it now? You've created so much time and space, you've forced out those fights for so long. the objective in overtime still needs to travel what looks like double the distance that you've just covered.
Moving into position, like I say, Citadel setting themselves up for one last defense, moving together. They have Carbon Revival, but they did use Invisible Boundary and Cosmic Yard Amplifier, and Spalt does have Invisible Boundary. Enzo's going to open it up with the Silent Seduction to see if they can get some lockdown onto the backline members, see if they can set this up, even if they can stun out Molan. That would be huge, but that percentage damage is a lot onto Enzo, but they're still able to try and turn that round. That Invisible Boundary is used extremely early from Spalt, but if Molan can get into the backline, if they can sustain through this, it could be huge. Here comes Living G into the backline. If they can take out Melio, that removes the one defensive tool the Citadel have left, as Polly is going to be the first to fall. Alex charges up and just gets the Invisible Boundary off in time. And Tanuki, with Kraken Impact for the finishing blows, can burst through, and it's not even needed yet as they're continuing to push them back. But OUG not giving up yet. Due is on the point, holding through. They take out Tanuki again. Cosmic Card Amplifier, Karmic Revival to bring back Tanuki up to the point as overtime just trickles down. Due has to hold it with Meteor M, but it's completely surrounded, and we see Citadel bursting through OUG. They secure the point, the map, and that extra point in that bracket that might have got them a better seed.
It means that OUG are leaving the group stages of the grand finals without a series win. But they definitely need like the salutes, the claps for the effort that they put in, and just the spectacle that they've been giving us so far. Citadel Gaming would have preferred to have taken this seeding game, this like almost like Nothenberg over series for them, to take it cleanly, to be able to reset and get ready for playoffs starting on Friday. But they got to show us a little bit more, different compositions, different ideas, and obviously different maps too, with Heart of Heaven being picked from them for this final map of the best of 3.
Citadel Gaming, they have been a little stressed with how this tournament's been going so far, and I think that something we should bring up a little bit here is Citadel have been one of the loudest teams here in terms of reactions. We did not hear much of a reaction to that win, as they are directly behind us, and they did not celebrate that because they know that they scraped through that OUG took them to the limit, just like they have for basically every team beforehand.
Yeah, it definitely feels that like how Citadel, whether they are in a commanding position or not, seems to matter. A lot of them, like I think most of the teams, certainly OUG in this case, are going to be very vibes based on how things are going. But for Citadel Gaming, there's a lot of expectations of just like being an unsigned team that came out of stage 1 as the EMEA champions, 4th place finish at mid-season finals, 2nd seed here for stage 2. But there's always a chance that they could go on and actually beat some of the best teams in the world, as well as those that are in EMEA that they have some rivalry with. But so far, we haven't seen that commanding side of Citadel Gaming that we have seen from Virtus Pro in Group A, and Na'Vi in series like this one too, that didn't seem to struggle with the likes of OUG, or that we're going to be seeing a little bit late when they play up against Crazy Raccoon. Like, Na'Vi tend to not flounder in these cases. Citadel Gaming, whether it's just trying stuff out, whether it's just like there's not too much pressure on their shoulders right now, ended up going a little bit longer than we would have assumed.
Very much so, and you mentioned it earlier, and I do want to reiterate it before we continue to talk about Citadel. There should be salutes, claps, and high fives for OUG, coming in with substitutes, coming in with everything stacked against them, and they were still able to take basically every single team in this devastatingly difficult group to the limit. We don't know what the next year of Marvel Rivals esports will look like, but I so hope it includes Over Ultra Gaming.
Oh, no doubt. I think all of the players have done work, whether it is like the Chinese roster or whether it's been the substitutes that have come in from EMEA and also in China. Like, it feels like really you couldn't have done a better job other than just make it scary for some of these organizations that have been quite literally working towards this event, right? That this whole year is leading up towards the Ignite Grand Finals. For Citadel Gaming, that was the plan for them once they got signed to that organization just before mid-season finals, is to be here. And OUG, they got here, and they're able to scare some of the best teams in the world as a result.
They really have, and they continued to do so all the way up until the last. But like you mentioned, that is their last game. They do go out without winning a series, but they made them work for it. But speaking of working for it, Citadel need to keep doing so. They are secured for playoffs, and with that win, they might have secured themselves a pretty solid seed, especially seeing as their biggest competition for that last place seed in that group is 100 Thieves, and they're going to be going up against a very tough opponent later.
Yeah, 100 Thieves, they could maybe sort of leapfrog their way above Citadel Gaming with a win over FlyQuest, which is coming up. We have a rematch of that upper grand finals of Americas for Stage 2. And then Na'Vi get to play up against Crazy Raccoon. We're able to get their first win on the board by beating OUG earlier on today. But for OUG, 0-5, didn't win a series, but they won our hearts.
Looking at those matchups, like you said, we have that 100 Thieves FlyQuest. That will be the next series coming up. If FlyQuest are able to take this, then they will be convincingly sitting at the top of the table. But if they lose, then Na'Vi will actually potentially sneak ahead of them in terms of map score, in terms of top of the group. Fighting for that first seed is going to be difficult. That will be our next series, though, and we're going to make sure we can get it set up for you as quick as possible. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, it's going to be FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves. It's the rematch.